Let me tell you a story about a tiny seed that was once full of life potential. One day it sprouted its leaves above the soil to absorb the sunlight that was essential. The little plant felt ready to discover the world, and that made it come alive. But that huge glass ceiling above it seemed like the wrong place to arrive. The little plant met many new friends, but they all had to sit still in rows. They were expected to grow in the same way, but this little plant never got close. And when the plant got distracted by bugs and insects that would slow down its pace, they would spray it with some chemicals to keep producing red fruits without any taste. The nights felt like winter, and the little plant would dream about changing the world forever. But in the morning, it realized that in order to do so, you must be clever. They would not listen to its wishes or needs, no matter how hard it tried. Every day felt like a battle, and the little plant was slowly dying inside. This story isn't just about any plant. This story is about me growing up as a little girl. Just like many children today. At this moment, 262 million children worldwide are growing up in an unsustainable education system that has expired long ago. A system that is not teaching children what they truly need or what nurtures them to be themselves. And there's something I want to share with you that I bet they did not teach you in history class. You see, the true meaning of the word school got lost in translation and originates from this beautiful Greek word skole, which means free time. School was once a place where you got to explore the things you love doing and find your own truth. And school never meant it to be a place where you had to live up to cultural or adult expectations or imprison your brain into a fixed mindset. And if we even go further back into history, we find that hunter-gatherer children would roam around freely all day without much intervention. And I don't know about you, but I don't remember having any free time in school to do the things I really love doing, like playing outside with my friends, writing a poem, or starting my next business idea for a better world. When I look at schools, I see factories and monoculture farms that replace children's trust in nature for endless economic growth at the expenses of the earth and the expenses of their happiness and health. Unconsciously, school is teaching us to work against nature, which then means that we actually learn and teach them to work against ourselves. Because in the end, we are nature. And we already see this resulting in the shocking fact that the average adult today in this country is consuming up to 3.3 Earths within a growing burnout pandemic. This means that if you or I would birth a child into today's world, it would be born with this huge depth that isn't theirs. And this keeps me up at night, knowing that if we would compare the lifespan of the Earth to our human existence, humans have only been around for just 3 seconds. And we have made such a mess. And although we see great innovation happening in all areas of our lives, like meat made from plants or airplanes flying on algae, schools, on the other hand, haven't changed much in the past 100 years. And this raises the question, why do we still expect children to adapt to an unsustainable education system while the education system itself fails to adapt and is stuck in an old narrative? The stories we are told in school become a self-fulfilling prophecy. And it shapes our reality in the way we sleep, the way we eat, the way we behave, the way we transport ourselves. I mean, I think we can all agree on the fact that plastic does not end up in the ocean by itself. The soil under our feet is not mysteriously degrading on its own. Bees don't commit suicide. And for sure, air pollution is not created by trees. Climate change is not a climate problem. It is a civil problem, and it all starts with the way we learn. Because the way we learn defines the way we live. And this is also the good news. Because I think we can also agree on the fact that we can all be part of the problem, or we can choose to be part of the solution. And luckily for me, besides growing up with dyslexia, struggling in school and sometimes worrying about the world, I also self-diagnosed myself with a superpower. I call it Chronicle optimism. Because from a young age, I felt connected to nature and I wanted to be a part of it. And I knew that I had to create my own story, no matter what people told me I was or wasn't. I was always asking these uncomfortable questions to adults, like, why do we flush drinking water to the toilet? Or why do we eat meat? But I was always left without a satisfying answer. So I learned young that if I wanted to change the world, I shouldn't be waiting for adults to do it. I had to take matters into my own hands. And out of the 1,000 memories, there's one I want to share. I was about 5 years old, and it was the beginning of spring, and rain was pouring down from the sky. And from my window, I saw all these snails crawling over the sidewalk in front of our house. This is what snails do, right? So I didn't even bother to grab my raincoat, and I ran outside and I gathered all my friends and asked them if they would help me to pick up the snails and put them in our garden. Because I thought it would be so sad if they would get stepped on and die. So within minutes, our garden turned into a snail wildlife park with hundreds of snails eating my mother's plants. It were those lessons and experience that I learned outside of school that I valued the most and helped me to stay in love with life. In fact, a few years ago, I fell in love again, and that changed my life forever. I found myself in the middle of the Indonesian jungle. And from the distance, I heard this beautiful traditional gamelan music and the sound of laughing children. Between the tropical trees, a surreal, sustainable bamboo school unfolded itself. And I felt my inner child jumping up and down from excitement. Because everywhere I looked, I saw young changemakers working together on joint projects to create a better world. In the workshop, there were 2 boys crafting a bicycle made from local bamboo and recycled materials. And in a permaculture garden, there were children harvesting and preparing their own school lunches. And on this huge stage, bamboo stage, bigger than this one, there were young children presenting their mind-blowing solutions to real big world problems. It was everything I dreamed of when I was a little girl. And it was everything that I would love to create for my future children and children around the world. Every cell in my body aligned to the idea that education is the seed of change. And from that day forward, I've put all my efforts in regenerating the education system and starting a school movement called NOWSCHOOL. And my dream grew into a dream of many, because today a beautiful community, I know they're here as well, all are working together on starting the first school in the Netherlands. A school with the aim of nurturing the interconnection between children and nature that is already there. So, I think it's a no-brainer if I tell you that we can reverse climate change to the way we educate the next generation. And that the key to a living, healthy, thriving planet is hidden in the way we design schools. But we all have been through the same education system. So our only limitation is our own imagination. I think we should dream again like we did when we were children. So allow me to plant a new seed into your inner soil. A seed of the future that you can water give sunlight and nurture, and let it grow into something bigger, like change. It's a seed of the future, written in a poem. Thanks to our efforts, children were free to learn and play. A loving community of parents and teachers listened to what they had to say. Happiness and health became the new norm because politicians changed the rules and transformed. The earth was their classroom full of lessons and answers to be found, and nature their biggest teacher if you will listen and look around. They all encouraged each other to make mistakes because they understood that failing is what it takes. They adapted their inner rhythm to the outer seasons of change, and the dance between nature and human became an equal exchange. In a circle, they shared old indigenous wisdom and mixed them with new ideas. And they even had a toilet that separated poopies and pees. They learned that in nature, waste does not exist if you give it new meaning, and that we can all help the planet in the process of healing. The soil came to life because they planted seeds here and there, and as a reward, the earth thanked them with fresh water and clean air. Children grew up side by side with food and trees, and everywhere you looked, you saw animals and humming bees. A whole generation of holistic thinkers and doers took care of their home, and they passed on the earth to their children as the start of a new poem.